Singer's Clubhouse. Gear, effects, tips and tricks. Your complete vocal experience. Oh, and Tom and Craig.
Hey, welcome to TC-Helicon Singer's Clubhouse. I'm Craig Fraser. Today with me is Tom Lang. Tom, where are you, Tom?
Hi, Tom.
Tom is off gallivanting around in LA this week with Whitney Meyer. They're setting up for some videos they're going to be shooting and some stuff they're doing in the UK for an educational kind of thing that they're running. So really cool opportunity for him. But episode 2 ends up with me and a guest. And my guest today is Kathy Alexander. So Kathy is the staff writer at voicecouncil.com and contributes lots of articles and all that kind of stuff. And because she was lurking around the office, I dragged her in here to come hang out with me and do this show. So it'll be less or not at all gear related today, but much more about just singing in general. And that's something that I'm actually quite interested in, you know, just in my own life and learning about that kind of stuff. So Kathy, why don't you let us know just a little bit more about what you do with Voice Council and how you've been involved with it?
Yeah, thanks, Craig. I write a lot of articles that come from contributors who I interview. So basically, I get to spend my days talking to really amazing people and writing down, you know, their wisdom for singers. So I talk to celebrity vocal coaches, producers, engineers, doctors, therapists, and it's I feel like I'm a student. I get paid to be a student, basically.
That's
It's
awesome.
great.
Cool. So you know kind of how the format of the show works. We do an analysis paralysis dealio, and then we do a deep dive, and then we take a community question. So we're going to go right into analysis paralysis right now, and we'll tell you what it's about when we come back from the bumper. Oh, and you'll have to forgive if there's a low rumble. I'll try and get rid of it. But there's a giant excavator in our parking lot that is currently excavating. So that's what we're dealing with. Okay, so in analysis paralysis today, we are going to talk about nerves and jitters and what the heck to do about it. You and I had a conversation, you know, off the air yesterday about how, for myself, my defense against being nervous is to go do whatever it is. So that's kind of a strange reaction. Maybe some people are on that same page as me, but you know, some people shut down. Oh my God, I'll sit in the back of the room. I'll go last. I'll do whatever to avoid going on stage or to presenting my, you know, my report or whatever it is. My reaction has always been to just, okay, I'll go first. And then that way, at least I don't get judged for not going first. You do get a little bit of cred for going first. And I tend to kind of be extroverted through my nerves, and it's kind of interesting how that affects my personality, and maybe somebody can relate to that. Let's talk specifically about how do you start mentally getting over having a nervousness about getting up in front of people, performing, you know, really kind of relaxing into the ability to sing on stage.
You know, that it's great that you mentioned the mental side of it, because, you know, we have a contributor on Voice Council, Eric Mizell.
Okay.
And he has a kind of a mental trick, and it might seem almost too simple in a way, but I think it's worth a try. He says basically, you can actually just tell yourself to be calm.
Okay.
You can actually just say to yourself, I'm going to do a lot better in everything I do if I can just be calm.
Yep.
And I'm just going to tell myself, I'm going to be calm now. I'm going to handle this by being calm. He even says you can imagine a mental image of a switch and literally mentally flip a switch and say, I am going to be calm. This is how I'm going to handle this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it almost seems too simple, but I think it works. I think it's a great idea.
A lot of athletes, you know, do that visualization thing. They're running through the running, you know, that they're going to do, where they're jumping over the bar or whatever. And I can imagine how having a mental image of a switch like that gives you the same kind of effect. You know, you're making a conscious effort to be aware of what's going on.
Yeah, and there's other mental things you can do as well. One of our contributors, Juliette Russell, has a great piece about how you can kind of flip something around from negative to positive, and so it's another kind of mental thing, right? So you might be thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get out there, and what if the audience is all talking and they're not listening to me, and it's going to be horrible.
That never happens. Everyone with rapt attention when you're playing in the pub turns and looks at you. Yeah,
with hushed awe.
Yeah, you don't hear like, I'll have the barbecue wings in the background. That doesn't happen at all.
But you know, so then you can flip that from a negative to a positive, and you can say, I'm going to make them listen to me. I want them to listen. I'm going to make them listen. And now you're focusing on the positive. or if you've got a sick stomach feeling in your stomach
Yeah.
because you're nervous, you might be thinking, oh my God, this feels awful. I just feel sick.
Yeah.
But you can kind of flip it around and tell yourself, I want this, I care about this, I get to do this, and try to get yourself to be excited about
Right.
the chance to do something you want that matters to you.
Sure. Something that relates to me in that sense was that, like I said, my jitters kind of get me going. They get me amped up and push me out on the stage. But then I tend to push too hard because that's the way it manifests. It manifests as this high energy kind of thing. And so I tend to not have the longevity in my voice. So now I had all these innuendos set up because this is just rife for this. So when I'm performing, I'm worried about not being able to perform for long enough. If I'm performing with new people, I'm worried, that my performance might not be satisfactory
To the other people.
Exactly. So, anyways, there's my innuendo for the day. But
No,
it was just
an
right there to
innuendo.
just yeah.
That's good.
Um, I think that was a big thing for me, is that I would push too hard. I would try too hard. Do you have any suggestions for somebody who's in my situation where it's like too bubbling
Too
out?
much.
Like how do you restrain it but yet still have fun and show the audience that you're really into it?
When you were talking about your response, I was kind of thinking, fight or flight. So for you, it's the fight. It's like, instead of being scared, I'm going to just get in there and do it, right? So I can see how that is a great strategy. So, but when you're talking, I've just been thinking about the kind of physical aspect of sort of tension and maybe overdoing
Right.
it and having too much. And when we were kind of off camera the other day, I mentioned Mark Baxter, and he talked about being backstage with Steven Tyler as his coach, and Steven Tyler was kind of admitting that he had the jitters, and he did some physical stuff with him. So
Right.
so that might be something for you to try too. Like he said he got him to do some jumping jacks, some knee bends, and to get his heart rate elevated a little bit.
Okay.
And then as he went out on stage, his heart rate was coming down. So that was
so
helping
he's
him.
moving to a relaxation.
He was moving,
kind of thing. Yeah.
elevating the heart rate, and then calming down as he goes out on stage.
Interesting.
And that was kind of a physical technique. And of course, there's breathing. You can
Yeah.
always take a few slow breaths, and it will do wonders for just getting a little bit of that control back. Because
Yeah.
it's kind of what you're saying. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm almost a little too excited. It's almost out of control a little. But a few slow breaths, I would probably just do it through my nose. But it probably doesn't matter. And that'll give you that control and just balance again, kind of in your body as well as your mind.
Yeah. And I guess if all else fails, a couple shots of whiskey and then you're good to go.
I have to say, I like to have a glass of something before
Yeah.
I perform. I'm going to get criticized for that.
Oh, it's funny because there are lots of people who like to perform when they're just trashed. And to me, it was always my job. It was like, why would I go to work messed up? But I have a beer at work sometimes, and I'd have a beer, before going on stage. And there's a balance between, or a big difference between 1 and 15,
Yeah, and everybody's body responds differently
Yeah.
to different substances, so it's a very individual thing, but
For sure.
balance is
Yeah.
generally the idea.
Well, this is good. I think let's move on to the deep dive, and we'll talk a little bit, because we're talking about alcohol and other things that can affect your singing. Let's talk a little bit about vocal health.
Sure.
And we're back. So vocal health, like I said, again, my personal experience has been, I went through a period of time where I lost my voice, from pushing too hard, and it was right at the end of an opening set, so it wasn't so bad. I could kind of cover it by being like, we're gonna get off stage so the headlining band can get on, and it was like, it made it look like we were being all magnanimous for getting off the stage, but really it was because I had thrashed my throat in 45 minutes.
Oh, man.
So I've kind of had experience with, doing warm-ups prior to, so I'm the goofball in the van going, that kind of stuff on the way to the show, and trying to get over how silly that might seem to people. Do you want to touch a little bit on warming up and sort of preparing for the exercise that is using your voice for a period of time?
Yeah, totally. I mean, what you just did is, we sometimes call it a lip trill.
Yeah.
Or there's all sorts of the weird, strange thing that singers do. But what that does is similar to what humming does.
Right.
It's a way of making a sound with your voice, and yet creating a tiny bit of back pressure on the vocal folds. Singers often will sing through a straw, even.
Really? I hadn't heard of that one.
Yeah, it's all the rage with voice therapy.
Okay.
You can make noise through a straw while it's even in some water, so you're blowing bubbles.
And
But
the back pressure you're
same
saying.
thing. This is all
Okay.
about this back pressure. So humming, or what you just said,
Yeah.
and the straw thing. It's all about this little bit of back pressure that somehow just helps your vocal folds to just be in a good place.
Okay, yeah.
It helps your vocal folds. It sort of decompresses them a little.
Like stretching a muscle, is that, I mean, a similar
I think
idea?
it's similar. I
Okay.
think I'm not the speech therapist. I'm the one
Sure.
who interviews them, but I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah.
a similar thing.
Okay.
So by doing that, you're kind of setting your voice up to be kind of in a good position, in a good place, in good karma, or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
And it really does wonders. And so that's something you can do at the beginning of the day before a gig, or even right before a gig. It warms up, it loosens up your voice.
Nice.
Other things are just keeping your body in good condition.
Right, like physical, having good cardio, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think physically being fit will
Yeah.
definitely help, because your body, unlike other instruments, your voice has no external part. It's all
Right.
in your body.
Yeah.
And so it's dependent on the condition of your body. So being a fit, healthy person will help. But also things like sleep
Yeah.
and hydration.
Which are things that don't come easily on the road and
No,
that kind of stuff.
not at all.
Yeah.
It's
So
really hard.
that kind of leads into, I remember getting to the point where I would go up to the bartender and ask for a pitcher of tepid water. Like, can you just give me like room temperature tap water, no ice? And you get these looks like, okay, diva, here you go. But the reality was, if I drank ice water, it was, up go the vocal cords. So I think it's good for people to know that if they're taking care of their body in a certain way, as long as you're not being completely ridiculous about it, it's okay to have a bit of a bubble around yourself in terms of like, no, I'm not going to eat that. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to the hotel and sleep after the show, and I don't have to party every night. And, if bass player goes out and parties and, feels a little bit trash the next day, he's relying obviously on it, or her, relying on their mental faculties to still play the instrument, but the instrument is a big part of, they haven't broken their strings.
The instrument's
essentially,
still fine.
Yeah,
no matter
yeah, exactly.
how they're feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And I think the other thing to remember is that everyone responds differently. So it depends partly what music you're singing. Like, are you singing some R&B stuff that's like basically at speech pitch?
Yeah.
Or are you singing some really high soprano note that you have to sustain for 8 beats quietly? So it really matters what you're singing and who you are.
Yeah.
So you have your own physiology, and you respond differently than the next guy to being sick, or having like nachos and cheese and then lying down for a nap and having all that acid. Some people can handle that, so it depends who you are,
can't do that.
what you're singing.
Yeah.
Neither can I.
I mean, I love the nachos and cheese and everything, but
I just look at them and I can feel the
exactly.
heartburn. So it's hard because you might feel embarrassed, like you want to be this tough person and I can sing through anything.
Yeah.
But you have to remember we're all different and our situations are all different. And yes, you kind of do have to put that bubble around yourself and say, yes, I'd like non-freezing cold water, and I'm going to go to bed, and then you're going to have a better performance.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. All right. Well, I think that covers a couple of really great topics. If people want to dive deeper, obviously there's a ton of information on voicecouncil.com, so articles you can read there. I actually, speaking of Mark Baxter, I had his book and VHS tape that I bought, off the internet about, 10 or 12 years ago or something like that. So that's kind of cool. Now, normally we do something from the community chest, a question that's come in, but obviously we have some questions that have come in that are more gear related that you and I won't go over right now. Just so you remember, the Singers Clubhouse is where you want to send your hashtags for Facebook or Twitter or anything if you want to send a question in for next week when Tom is back. But today, I told Kathy I'd do something with her that I wasn't going to tell her about. So I'm going to do some quick fire questions. I don't have like the late show, cards to go through. I just have a crinkled up piece of paper here. But I'm giving you either or. So here are your quick fire questions. Vampires or zombies?
Zombies.
Yes. Bacon or kale?
Oh, don't ask me that.
Kale with bacon?
Yeah.
Okay,
totally.
all right. Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
All right. Okay, we're together now. George Clooney or Brad Pitt?
Brad Pitt.
All right. Keeping that in mind, Mr. Husband, just if that, Brad Pitt's on the laminated card in the wallet. Okay. Tigers or monkeys?
Monkeys.
Monkeys, all right. And since we're in Canada, hockey or hockey?
Yes.
All right, Kathy, thanks for joining me on the show. Next week,
having me.
Tom will be back, and we will continue doing our antics. Be sure to check out voicecouncil.com for all of the stuff that's over there, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.